This time in auction, the secret life of David Bowie. The rock star's art collection comes under the hammer.
Bowie's collection is a really personal journey. What's amazing about it is he bought what he loved. He bought the artist that meant something to him.
A discerning eye, the man who changed the music world knew what he liked.
He was not a Sunday collector. He was not an armchair critic. He was deeply involved with the vocabulary.
And provenance pays. The Bowie connection sends prices through the roof.
6,200,000. Thank you very much indeed, sir. 6,200,000. That's 6,200,000. Your bid, sir, and selling. Thank you very much indeed for £6,200,000. Thank you very much indeed, sir. 6 million.
New York, home to the Englishman David Robert Jones, better known to millions the world over as David Bowie. Bowie was born in Brixton, South London in 1947 and died in Manhattan in January 2016. But it was London that his estate chose as the place where his remarkable art collection would be sold just 10 months after his death. A collection which few knew much about and which, when it was revealed, gave us an insight into David Bowie, the man with art on his mind. Sotheby's are selling Bowie's art, and it will turn out to be one of the biggest and most frantic weeks in the auctioneer's history. Over 50,000 people come to the preview days. Nearly 2,000 turn up for the 3 days of auctions, and 1,000 register to bid online. As if that were not enough, Sotheby's have other planned sales in this week of madness. A unique musket made for the Chinese emperor sparks a bidding war and eventually sells to an Asian buyer for £2 million. Elsewhere, important Chinese art brings in £5 million through the sale of pieces like this rare tea bowl from the Song dynasty. And an imperial seal made to commemorate the 80th birthday of the emperor in the Qinglong dynasty.
1,650,000. 165万. Last chance, you sure? He shakes his head. Thank you very much, Paddle 28.
We'll be covering those sales in this program too, but in size and scale and interest, they're eclipsed by the Bowie art collection. So big and so diverse that Sotheby's have chosen to spread it over 3 auctions. First, though, there's the preview. A chance for thousands to see the art David Bowie collected quietly across his life, seizing moments between world tours and recording sessions to visit galleries and auctions in search of the artists he admired. So, here are the fruits of those visits. Everything from the abstraction of Jean-Michel Basquiat to modern British art. Peter Lanyon, Winifred Nicholson and Harold Gilman, for example, through sculptors such as Henry Moore and on to Damien Hirst and Frank Auerbach, whose head of Gerda Bowen, one of the top lots, caused Bowie to say, "I want to sound like that looks." So, if the first challenge for Sotheby's is squeezing so many visitors into the preview days, they're queuing out into the street, the second is describing David Bowie's art collection.
When I look back at the collection and what we did together, there was a lot of digging around and a lot of thinking about why this painting versus that painting or why this sculpture. And if you think about those sales, modern British picture sales, so if you think of one auction, you've got a huge price range between the auctions. So you can think of the Gilman that we bought. And Mrs. Mountford was a very specific purchase. There are 3 of them out there. You know, Mrs. Mountford never comes onto the marketplace. Of course we're going to try for it. And of course, if you're interested in modern British pictures, this is significant. It's really significant. So he would be paying a record price. It's not that he suddenly decided that was a great picture and I'm going to buy it. And in the same sale, he was buying very modest pieces that we were looking for. We were bouncing in values, but we knew exactly why we were doing it. He really came to it with tremendous curiosity. I might have pointed out a great picture in that particular field, but I never ever felt as though I was teaching him anything.
Perhaps we shouldn't be surprised that David Bowie had an intense interest in art. that it meant so much to him. After all, the young David Jones, now moved from Brixton and living in Bromley, attended Bromley Technical School and studied art, music and design, which included layout and typesetting. That may help to explain his 20 years of collecting such diverse paintings. But it's also clear from those who knew him and have contributed their memories to this sale that Bowie made a strong connection between music and art and mood. He was drawn to British painters such as Winifred Nicholson, whose St Ives Harbour 1928 is here, the estimate is 50 to 70,000, and Peter Lanyon, who before his death in a gliding accident at the age of 46, completed a huge body of work painted in his native Cornwall and established a new post-war appraisal of modernism, like this, Witness. It's this eclecticism that so excites Sotheby's head of modern British paintings, Francis Christie.
This painting was executed a few years after Lanyon had taken to the skies in a glider. So what we're looking at is his experience of flying through the air and seeing the land, the sky and the sea from above. And I think when you know that, you really understand the expressive brushstrokes that he's making. You can see flashes of blue, the sky or the sea, flashes of green, that very English, luscious colour of the fields, and then these really dynamic black strokes. They could be a weather front coming through, it could be his particular path through the air, but for me this really represents so much of what the collection was about. Bowie was clearly drawn to artists who were passionate about what they did and who were really pushing boundaries and creating a very new visual vocabulary for the post-war era.
Witness has a top estimate of £350,000, and so does another piece that pushed the boundaries and which Bowie helped to create himself in the studio of Damien Hirst. Beautiful Hallow Spaceboy painting was made in 1995, with Bowie pouring the paint onto a spinning canvas.
And the spins are a great body of work by Damien, in which he was mimicking that great child activity of making spin paintings on a really small revolving turntable. For these big spins, a huge canvas would be placed on the turntable, and Bowie came to Damien's studio, and the two of them literally poured paint together onto the canvas and created what we stand in front of now together. Damien wrote a great piece for our catalogue in which he said he deliberately told Bowie to come in, some old clothes because it's quite a messy activity. But sure enough, Bowie came top to toe in designer clothes, but didn't give two hoots about what he was wearing. And they had a really, really fun afternoon together, spinning to create what we have behind us now.
There's an estimate of up to £500,000 on the Frank Auerbach head of Gerda Bowen, but a suspicion that it will fetch much more. Auerbach moved from Berlin to London in 1939, and this is his cousin, really the only member of his family that he saw after leaving Germany. The year is 1965, and the portrait, with its dripping impasto literally coming out of the board, was one of Bowie's favourites.
Bowie saw this painting every day, and he famously spoke about Auerbach in an interview with the New York Times in 1998. He said that if he was feeling anxious, Auerbach's painting could really bring out that angst. But on another day, if he was feeling great joy or a feeling of triumph, he said, "I want to sound like that looks." And I think when you look at it, it's literally like a painting sculpted in oil.
And the big hitters in this sale? Surely, works by Jean-Michel Basquiat, the young artist who fused street culture and high art, but died aged only 28. This is Untitled, painted 4 years before his death in 1988. It carries a catalogue estimate of £500,000 to £700,000, but there's an estimate of £2.5 to £3.5 million for Air Power, also painted in 1984, containing clues to so many aspects of his life: Haitian father, Puerto Rican mother, and a childhood in Brooklyn.
Bowie was really drawn to Basquiat because Basquiat also understood music. Basquiat had played in the Mud Club in New York that Bowie had frequently visited and enjoyed the music there. So there was something about the mark making, the energy with which the paint is applied to the canvas that Bowie completely understood. He wrote about Basquiat for the magazine Modern Painters in the 1990s. And it's worth mentioning, and because it's part of Bowie's life that lots of people don't realise, that in the 1990s, he joined the editorial board of Modern Painters, and this really shows how intellectually engaged he was with the art world. He wrote articles for Modern Painters. He wrote about Basquiat, Damien Hirst, about contemporary African art. He interviewed artists such as Jeff Koons, Baltus, all for Modern Painters, and I think it really demonstrates how his mind worked. He loved conversations with artists. He loved finding out what was really at the core of what they were doing, what was causing them to push the boundaries, I suppose in the same way that he really pushed boundaries as a musician.
Even before these top lots come to auction, Sotheby's have broken records. Shown at its branches around the world, the collection has been seen by 56,000 people, the vast majority of them visiting the auction rooms in London. Now, those who can have come in person to London for the first of the 3 sales, assuming they could get one of the ticketed seats. Is there some nervousness here? Between the preview days and the first sale, there has been an election for President of the United States. Will Donald Trump's success affect prices because investors dislike uncertainty? Or will collectors be looking to put their dollars into art for safety? Over 1,000 have registered to bid online from 46 countries. But as it turns out, although many lots will be snapped up by remote bidders, either online or on the telephone, the really big lots will sell to bidders in the room, which is much more exciting for everyone here, including the auctioneer, Oliver Barker. In the first few minutes, Winifred Nicholson's view of St Ives Harbour realises £245,000 against a top estimate of £70,000. It's an early sign that the collection will fetch higher prices than expected. How will the bidding go for Damien Hirst's beautiful Hallow Spaceboy painting, in which David Bowie himself had a hand? The estimate, £250,000 to £350,000.
Still with the commission bidder at £550,000 here. At £550,000. At £550,000, 600,000, 650,000 now. At 650 now, any more? At 650,000, it's my bidder, and selling for this wonderful icon. You sure? This is David Bowie with Damien Hirst, you do know that. And 650,000, at £650,000. Sold, thank you very much.
That Bowie favourite, Interior Mrs. Mounter by Harold Gilman from 1917, sells for £485,000, twice its estimate, and a new record for the artist. And the Henry Moore makes £581,000, considerably more than its top estimate of £350,000. David Bowie said art could change the way he felt in the mornings, and nowhere was that connection felt more intensely than with Frank Auerbach's portrait of Gerda Bowen. It comes before a packed sale room with an estimate of between 300,000 to 500,000. But that figure is fast forgotten.
2,900,000. £3 million. Thank you very much. It's 3 million. 3,100,000. 3,150,000. 3,150,000.
Frank Auerbach's portrait is on its way to setting a new record for the artist, and the excitement among buyers in the room is palpable.
3,250,000, that's fair warning, and selling to you, Simon. Last chance at £3,250,000. Sold to you.
With the buyer's premium, that's a little under £3.8 million, 10 times its estimate. Presumably, the successful bidder shares Bowie's view when he said, "All art really does keep you focused on questions of humanity." They're expecting £350,000 for Peter Lanyon's Witness, but it goes for just under £800,000. The first of the works by Jean-Michel Basquiat, Untitled, is estimated at up to £700,000. But what happens in the first few minutes takes everyone, including the auctioneer, by surprise.
300, 1,000, 400,000, £1 million. Thank you very much indeed, Gregoire. £1 million. Thank you very much indeed. Here on the telephone. Anyone else want to bid now? At 1 million. 1,050,000. Isabel's bidder.
Here is the alternative street culture in New York, of which Basquiat was part. His use of graffiti, his thoughts on racial inequality, his concern about the environment, the ethics of commerce and exploitation of workers. It's all here in the symbolism on this canvas. And with Bowie's name attached, it's got star quality.
Here at £2 million, gentlemen seated in the room at 2 million. It's against you, Greg, too. Fair warning now. For £2 million. Thank you very much indeed, sir. Thank you. Do you have a paddle, sir?
Which sets the scene for the other Basquiat, Air Power, on which Sotheby's have put a top estimate of 3.5 million. But, like the lot before, that proves conservative.
At £5,600,000.
There's an extra special connection between Bowie and Jean-Michel Basquiat. In 1996, Bowie played the role of Andy Warhol in the film Basquiat. And that's an added attraction to bidders here.
£6 million. At £6 million, 6,100,000. 6,200,000. Thank you very much indeed, sir. 6 million two. It's 6 million two. Amy, you're disappearing now. That's 6,200,000. Your bid, sir, and selling. Thank you very much indeed for £6,200,000. Thank you very much indeed, sir.
Add the buyer's premium, and the person who takes home Air Power is having to part with nearly £7.1 million, over double the catalogue estimate. And that's the story of the sale. Just 47 lots chosen for their interest and provenance, which, together, have fetched almost £24.5 million. There are 2 more sales to go, and Sotheby's now expect records to tumble as buyers the world over scramble to own a little bit of David Bowie, rock star and art collector. In London, 50,000 people have flocked to Sotheby's to see the art collection of rock star David Bowie being auctioned 10 months after his death at the age of 69. The very best lots have fetched record prices in the first of 3 sales, and there's more to come. But this is supposed to be a normal week in the autumn auction season at Sotheby's. If they can squeeze past the Bowie fans, there are others who have come for 3 significant sales of Chinese art. They include 2 standout pieces, the first of which is a seal produced to mark the 80th birthday of the Qinlong Emperor.
Well, the material is jade, and it's basically a carved seal, an imperial seal from the Emperor Qinlong, who'd reigned from 1736 to 1795. And there were a number of seals that were made throughout his reign. This is one of a set of 3 that were commissioned in 1790. What you see there, that's from where the actual seal paste has actually been. So then it's basically you put your wax across there, and then you make an imprint onto whatever it is, the surface of a painting or a paper or whatever it is that you're going to use.
The Emperor's seal has an estimate of 500,000 to 700,000, but as with all Asian sales, there are Chinese bidders wanting to repatriate these pieces and willing to pay what it takes.
Last chance then at 950,000. The hammer is coming down then at £950,000. Last chance. At 950,000.
With the buyer's premium, that's just over 1.1 million, which makes the experts think that the other top lot may also attract higher bids. It's an extremely rare glazed tea bowl from the Song dynasty, a rule that lasted from 960 to 1279 and became famous for its culture and literature and precious artworks.
These things were treasured, and they weren't out on display. They were only taken out at very special occasions. So the fact that they were so well looked after for hundreds of years, I mean, we can trace this back to the 17th century, and we have a distinct line of provenance, and it's quite possible it came into Japan earlier than that. But the fact that they were so well treasured and just only taken out for special occasions the condition is so good.
At auction, the catalogue for the exquisite tea bowl says £300,000 to £400,000.
Not yours, Peter. Not yours, Rachel. It's Nicholas's bidder then at £900,000.
1,000 years of history in a single object. No wonder the bidding has soared over the estimates.
Last chance then, Peter, at £900,000. Hammers up then. Joshua, no, you're out. £900,000. You're sure? At 900,000. Last chance.
Add the premium, and the tea bowl, complete with its own packaging, fetches over £1 million. Eclipsed by the clamour over Bowie they may have been, but the Asian sales are a huge success. For Sotheby's, there is more of Bowie to come. 2 other sales featuring pieces at what appear to be more reasonable prices demonstrate the extraordinary breadth of Bowie's interest in art. There is everything from sculpture by Dame Elizabeth Frink, this is Warrior, estimate £25,000 to £35,000, which will be knocked down for £40,000, to a head by Sir Edoardo Paolozzi,